The poet Claude McKay is touted as a proud child of Black Jamaica, die-hard bohemian, globe-trotting social radical, so-called playboy of the new Negro Renaissance, and author of ballades, sonnets, stories, novels, memoirs, and political commentary. He's also been described as a nationalist, a communist, a radical, a proletarian, a rebel, a Catholic, an atheist, a humanist, and even a fascist. McKay brings to his verse a race spirit and a race soul, but also a sensitivity sharpened by experience of other lands and peoples. He brought a sense of immediacy to his poetry. Although today he is taught almost exclusively as a poet of the Harlem Renaissance, Claude McKay was first a poet of Jamaica, as Heather Hathaway claims. He was a thing apart and out of time. It is these qualities, his constant displacement, that allowed him to assume the myriad of roles, to be at once a son of Jamaica and a warrior poet of the Harlem Renaissance. A little over a year ago, I discovered an infant prodigy who created quite a sensation. The boy is still looked upon as a marvel, and large audiences are drawn to hear him in the country. On this occasion, I lay no claim to discovering the genius who forms the subject of this sketch, but I am pleased to be able to bring before the public a promising young Jamaican, of whom more is certain to be heard in the field of literature. I got to hear of McKay through one who had taken a great interest in the lad, and learning that he was a member of the Constabulary Force and stationed at Halfway Tree, I took occasion to meet him and have a talk with him. Modest to a degree, McKay was not inclined to say much about himself. I hear you are bringing out a book of poems.
Yes, through the kindness of Mr. Jekyll, some of my work is being printed and will shortly be published.
I should like to hear something about yourself. How you come to join the police force, something of your early career.
What can I tell you?
Well, to begin, how old are you?
22.
Tell me about your school days. I'm sure you were a bright, clever little chap.
I first went to school kept by Mr. James Hill, and then I went to Mr. Watts, and then my brother, UCO McKay.
Is Mr. McKay your brother then?
Yes, and all I don't know what I learned from him.
Can you recall your first success?
I won a trade scholarship in 1906, and I came to Kingston in January 1907, the Friday before the earthquake, to take it up. As a result of the earthquake, I had to return home, and I was apprenticed to Mr. Campbell of Brownstown and to learn the trade of the wheelwright. I served under Mr. Saunders of Chapeltown, but on the account of illness, and the indenture was canceled.
When did you join the police force?
I enlisted last June, on the 7th of June.
So, tell me about your work.
I began writing dialect verses in 1909, my first attempt being a little thing entitled Hard Times. Messrs. is publishing a volume of about 50 poems entitled Songs of Jamaica, and I expect the book will be through the press in time for the publication in December.
Thank you for your time.
Langston Hughes is a Missouri native writer. He wrote from 1926 to 1969. In that time, he wrote more than 60 books, including poems, short stories, novels, and musicals. In his childhood, his parents' divorce causing him to be very lonely. He often occupied himself with books, which led him to start writing. His goal was to shed the internalized racism and loathing that he felt that many African Americans possessed. To my mind, it is the duty of a younger Negro artist who accepts any duties from all outsiders, who change with the force of art and the old whispering, "I want to be white," and the aspirations of people. To "Why should I want to be white? I'm a Negro and beautiful," he wrote. His hobby of writing eventually turned into a full-time job in which he wrote many poems, including the famous Mother's Son. Langston, I see your poem is gaining popularity all over the world, but some readers were baffled by what it meant. What is the real message behind your poem?
I guess it's about a mother telling her son about how hard her life is and to never give up no matter what. This mother has been through a lot of hard times, so when she saw her son feeling down, she told him kind of like a little story of her life, maybe just to comfort him that he is not alone. In this poem, the mother also teaches her son that there will be both hard times and good times in life, and that life must go on.
I heard that you've had a bad childhood. Did it inspire you to write this poem?
Well, yes, it has inspired me because when I was young, my parents had divorced and I lived with my mother and my father moved away. My mother was never there for me, so I had a very lonely childhood. This poem is probably what I would say to my children when they had a hard time, so they can know that I too have had hard times before and they are not alone.
What is the metaphor of the stairs in this poem? What do they represent?
The stairs represent life. Going up the stairs represent going through life. A crystal life must go on. A crystal stair represents a good life, and in this case, the stairs are full of tacks and splinters. A hard life. But life must go on, so you have to jump over the obstacles. These obstacles can represent anything that gets in your way. For example, my parents were divorced. That may have caused me to become depressed, sad, and lonely, but I didn't let it get in my way. I spent climbing and reaching landings and turning corners around these obstacles by comforting myself with writing. The more I wrote, the more I got better at it, and pretty soon I began writing books and poems that led me to where I am today.
What inspires you to write?
My grandmother. In my childhood years, my mother was always away at work, so I had a lot of time with my grandmother. She was a really good storyteller and would read me books whenever I'm with her. So I guess she kind of transferred her love of literature to me. Without my grandmother, I wouldn't be here today.
What does it mean to be an African-American poet during these times and to be so influential to the Harlem Renaissance?
We younger Negro artists who create now intend to express our individual dark-skinned selves without fear or shame. If white people are pleased, we are glad. If they are not, it doesn't matter. We know we are beautiful, and ugly too. If colored people are pleased, we are glad. If they are not, their displeasure doesn't matter either. We build our temples for tomorrow, strong as we know how. And we stand on top of the mountain, free within ourselves.